Good evening, everyone. How you been? How you been? Unless you saw me earlier today at the Assange briefing at the British consulate, you probably haven't seen me on the old YouTube in a minute. So I haven't done one of these in a while, but I'm back on the couch. How we doing? Who's in the audience tonight? There's a couple of you. Maybe some more will come on in. Say hello in the chat to me. Say hello, 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 so I know who you are. Hey, Lucky, it's been a minute. I've been working and other things, but I am back on the old tube. It's been a while since I've done one of these little couch ranty sessions, but it's about that time. Hello, people coming in. Say hello in the chat. Hello. Good evening. Oh, thank you for the share. Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel like I'm coming out of retirement even. haven't ranted on the old couch in a minute. Had to take a break from that, I guess, but I am back. I know there's some others out there. Say hello in the chat if you can. We'll get going shortly. So this stream is all about what is the end game, which I feel like it's kind of like what is the stream? Like that's the stream that I always do in a weird way. It's like what is the end game? What are we doing? Like what is happening? So we're gonna explore that tonight. What is the end game of the people that keep making these choices that really impact our lives? Yeah. So we've talked a lot about COVID and vaccines on this channel. You know. If you've watched this, you are no stranger to my opinions on that. Tasha, what's up, Tasha? How you doing? Say hello in the chat if you're watching, folks. If you still think the vaccines are 95% effective and completely safe, then I'm never going to convince you otherwise. That's just what it is. That's where we are. The more time goes on, the more glad I am that I've been skeptical since day one. This is not good. So we'll see how bad it is tonight. We'll see how bad things are going to get. Still not sure. And then we'll also look at how all this COVID madness kind of works into the greater picture. Things are starting to kind of play out, but there's always room for curveballs. The next op, the next thing, whatever that might be. So let's jump in. Some of the stuff you might have seen, I guarantee you haven't seen it all, because you always see some little gems on this channel. Sometimes you'll see a few things you haven't really seen before, and then I have to cover the stuff you have to see, even if you've seen it before, because sometimes seeing it twice is important. It's good. All right, so let's hop in, shall we? Oh my god, I haven't done this in forever. Every time I do this, I feel like I'm doing it for the first time. I really need consistency, but it's all good. So it's Pride Month here. Let me know you can see my screen. Actually, I can check on my phone. Don't let me know. I'll check my screen. Yes, cool. So you can see this for sure. It's Pride Month, as we do here in the old New York City. It's a big deal. The festivities for the last 2 years were postponed, or canceled, I should say, due to the coronavirus pandemic. The coronavirus pandemic forced NYC Pride to shift into virtual formats for 2020 and 2021. While we are pleased to return to a fully in-person format for 2022, we are learning to live in an environment with recurring spikes in COVID-19 case numbers. NYC Pride is committed to bringing the community together in person with basic safety precautions in place to ensure we celebrate Pride with the lowest possible risk. Now, I'm all for making people feel safe, but at some point we need to move on. We need to move on. And this community should know from, 40 years ago, that when you trust the science, sometimes you die. Just saying. Anywho, here's some of the events that are happening for Pride. Family movie night, Wednesday, June 15th. Mask wearing is optional but encouraged when interacting with others. Now, I think that's fine. If people want to say that, if that makes people feel safe, great. Mask wearing is optional. You can do that. You know, fantastic. Have no problem with that. Ability to social distance at an outdoor event, great. You can put that. That's fine. This is good to put for people so they feel safe. RSVP is required. Hand sanitizing stations available. All fine. But then you get to this last bullet, and it says guests will be asked to provide proof of vaccination or a negative test. Wait, what? Proof of vaccination or we're still doing this thing. It is June 15th, 2022. The vaccines have been out for 18 months, and we're still playing the game that being vaccinated somehow makes you better and unable to be sick. This is absolutely absurd. And then you only have to have a negative test if you're unvaccinated. So you could be completely sick and go as a vaccinated person. And as an unvaccinated person, you have to get a test, which could be a false positive because we know the PCR tests are not completely accurate. What? And this is kind of the same for a lot of their other outdoor events too. It's like, what are you talking about? So vaccinated people do not have to test. Now, here's the Walgreens COVID-19 index. Anyone can go see this online. It is literally COVID-19 surveillance data from Walgreens and a company called Aegis. I'm going to let this load up a little bit. It's kind of a janky website running on my janky computer. But here we go. It's a beep boop. Here it comes. So if you go to this website, it's walgreens.com/business-solutions/COVID-19-index.jsp. You go to this, you click twice down at the bottom to page 3. Oh my God, can you please go? My slow computer is trying so hard. What's going on tonight? All right, so this will load up. This is down at the bottom. You see positivity rate by vaccination status. Now, these numbers don't make much of a difference when you're just looking at it like this, but there's a little button here, proportion of tests, right? Now you can go to that, and it shows you in the past week, right, June 8th through June 14th, the unvaccinated group, they accounted for 25.5% of all tests, right? But they only accounted for 21.4% of all total positives, right? So they're testing at a lower rate than they're testing positive at a lower rate, right? And it shows you the highest here are people who got the booster greater than 5 months ago and people who got 2 doses greater than 5 months ago. They test at 24.6% and 31.1%, and they come out positive more often. That's just the rate at which they test positive. They're more likely to be sick, according to PCR tests. Take it or leave it. But so this proof of a negative test, what? And can we not? I don't understand how we can have this data available to everyone, and we're still playing by the old, gotta have the vaccine or a negative test. We knew that was BS a long time ago. Not even this year, right? That was all last year. We figured that out during the rollout. But we're still playing this game, which makes me a little. It makes me a little concerned now because for a while it's okay, you were just dumb, you were following the rules, and then eventually you woke up, right? And there's a lot of people who don't get it still. They've been playing this game for the last 18 months and they don't get that the vaccinated are more sick now. They're literally positive more. They're in the hospital more. They're just sicker at this point. And not just for COVID, right? Not just for COVID. So that's an issue. Moving on from that, not only when you go to this event outside, which should be very low risk anyways, do you have to show proof of vaccination or a negative test. So you are saying that the unvaccinated are most likely to make people sick. Well, there are studies out now that suggest maybe something else is going on. This is so slow. Would you load, please? And we'll jump into that in just a second. Let me see what we got here. It's feeling very nefarious. It really is feeling very nefarious. NYC, my hometown. You're going to trust Fauci? I'm not going to trust Fauci for anything. Are you kidding me? You were right on. The PCR test not even supposed to be used for this purpose. No, they're not supposed to be used as a diagnostic tool. No. Hey now, Steve, what's up? All right, they're not letting this go. They're really not, which really makes me wonder why. That's the big question. Why are they not letting this go? They got a lot of what they already wanted. We'll talk about this later. They got control. They got a money grab. They got to bankrupt. They got to bankrupt small countries with these vaccine contracts, right? They got all of that. And now they've distracted you long enough with this and Ukraine and all the other things to kind of shift towards central bank digital currency, kind of moving away from the dollar that they printed the hell out of. Now they're messing with the food supply. We know all these things are happening, but they're still doing the COVID thing. It makes me think there's something else going on with COVID, not just all those things that I just said. That's a lot of things already that they kind of got away with because of COVID, because everyone was so scared of COVID and distracted by all the COVID madness. They got the power, they got the money, they got to bankrupt the small countries. So what else can there be? We might have to theorize a little bit tonight. And yeah, now we're about to inject the babies. It's scary. But vaccine shedding. Now, vaccine shedding has been something that people have talked about for many, many years, especially with the flu vaccine. The flu vaccine, which doesn't keep you from getting the flu, it's really like horrible. The flu vaccine is absolutely horrible. There's people have said, people are, oftentimes get sick when they're around people who have just received the flu vaccine, and I'm like, wow, that's such a weird concept. And people have really, there are people that are really adamant about the idea of the vaccine giving off some kind of whatever. People want to say virus, but it could be like protein or antibodies or whatever is coming out of your body. It's infecting other people, right? There's maybe a debate to be had there. Maybe it's even nanoparticles from the adjuvant or whatever it could be, right? So there's all these arguments like, that the flu vaccine makes other people sick when you get it. It's like, what? And people called those particular doctors and scientists kooks or crazy people or nuts. But like with COVID, they proved that vaccine shedding is really a thing. Let's jump into it. Igor Chudov, he has a good Substack if you're into that kind of thing. I definitely recommend his. He really digs into stuff. Do vaccinated people shed their vaccine byproducts to us? We definitely, for sure, knew that vaccine shedding was not a thing because health experts and fact checkers told us so, right? And we believe science and our health experts, right? See, they did this with vaccine shedding. And like vaccine shedding is one of those things that if you type it into Google, you don't find much about it. Outside of these little fact checks they kind of hit and moved on from, they've buried vaccine shedding. It is very hard to find info. And I know there's a lot more info out there, but you have to really, really dig for vaccine shedding. They've buried it. I think Suzanne Humphreys is the name of the MD who really goes into deep dives on shedding, and they've buried her. You have not heard about her very much in the last couple of years because of shedding. There's certain things like the graphene debate and the shedding debate. These things get shelved, and I think they get shelved for a reason. Except that it is wrong, and vaccine shedding was just proven by science. Even if I believe there was no plausible mechanism for vaccine shedding, I thought that it was a baseless conspiracy theory. Stupid me, it turned out that I was wrong, and vaccine shedding is real and can be measured. A study, Evidence for Aerosol Transfer of SARS-CoV-2 Specific Humoral Immunity, was just released. Evaluation of samples in this fashion revealed that high intranasal IgG in vaccinated parents was significantly associated with a 0.38 increase in the log transformed intranasal IgG GMFIs within a child from the same household. So basically, we identified anti-SARS-CoV-2 specific antibodies eluted from surgical face masks worn by vaccinated lab members, so vaccinated employees had their masks swabbed, I guess, and initial comparison of nasal swabs acquired from children living in vaccinated households households revealed readily detectable SARS-CoV-2 specific IgG, especially when compared to the complete deficit of SARS-CoV-2 specific antibody detected in the few nasal swabs we obtained from children in non-vaccinated households. So there's an actual difference between the kids who were not vaccinated, right, who lived in a home with vaccinated parents compared to the kids that lived in a home with unvaccinated parents. There was actual measurable difference. And of course, we can debate over the actual, validity of these lab tests, but like if it's showing up that there's a difference between these kids, it's probably true. So science looked further. They compared unvaccinated children living with unvaccinated parents to the kids living with vaccinated parents, blah, 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 blah. There is a possibility that children develop intranasal IgG because other vaccine byproducts or exosomes are being shed. Very possible, because your body does do a lot of things. Your cells make a lot of stuff when you're having an immune response, right? All these cell byproducts are kind of flying through your system, and we don't even know what half that shit is. Scientists act like they know what all that is, and there's just so much in your body, like trillions of cells. Just who knows? It could even be due to lipid mRNA nanoparticles themselves being shed. Now that's an interesting theory. Now that is a very interesting theory, because these nanoparticles are super, super tiny, right? It also makes me wonder, like, if nanoparticles had something to do with COVID in the beginning. The bat thing is really great to sit here and say, oh, some bat there's some zoonosis going on, some jump from an animal. I don't believe that for a minute, but this nanoparticle crap that they've really gotten into the past decade, I believe that they can make a lot of people sick with nanoparticles that are super, super tiny, right? That kind of float through the air like an aerosol, but are tinier and can go right through a mask. Very interesting. But who knows? Very hard to tell how these vaccines shed, but they shed. So one might assume that the flu vaccines also shed, especially newer flu vaccines within the last several years, where they've changed the adjuvants. The adjuvants are kind of what makes your arm sore, and causes inflammation, so your body has a response to that area. I'm not always sure adjuvants are a good thing, but there you go. Shooting metal into bodies, baby. So who knows? You can look that study up and let me know what you think. So let's go back to the chat. How we doing tonight, y'all? I haven't done one of these in a minute. People don't even know to come to my show. They don't even know. Yeah, shedding is definitely a thing, which is crazy. Menstrual changes among women in close contact with other women who were jabbed. I've heard some things. Yeah, man. And they really want to deny that. But if we can measure a difference between kids from unvaccinated households and kids from vaccinated households, then who knows what else, right? And we know the nanoparticles end up in the ovaries, right? So I don't know. That's crazy. Self-spreading vaccines has been a goal of psychopaths for a long time now. Yeah. No more informed consent. I'm going to shoot this person with a vax, and then everyone around them is going to have the vax. Seems like it's already happening. Seems like self-spreading, it's not for good. It's definitely not a good thing, but it's happening, it feels like. What up, Wesley? Busy porn overloaded. So many channels, so little battery life. My planned obsolescence design. Yeah, for real. Thimerosal, get you some. Yeah, I think they proved that was still in the flu vaccines as of 2019, maybe even 2020. It's probably still in there now. Like, it was proven. Like, didn't Robert Kennedy blow the lid off of that one? And it's still in vaccines. Like, we know it's bad for you, and they still put it in these vaccines. And they sit here and tell you the vaccines are great for you, and they save your life and all this. But they know that they're putting bad things in you while they're saying all this. Like, who can you even trust anymore? Like, these doctors and scientists should know better by now. Like, doctors really don't think there's a problem with vaccines. To this day, there are still doctors that I genuinely think don't understand that there's a problem. I don't understand how they can have that stance when there's been so many people who are like, yeah, I've had this issue since the vaccine, this issue, my sister died. She just fell down dead. Like I've heard all these stories from real people in my actual in real life and people online. I've heard it from both. Like it's not like a rare thing. It's we're not all dead yet, thank goodness, but like it's not rare either, you know. What up, GG? It's gonna get a lot worse soon. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. We'll talk a little bit about that. Trace amounts available for free on Vimeo. Trace amounts, cool. Mengele's solution. It really feels like that sometimes. It really does. I hate to be that guy. I didn't want to believe it in the beginning. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just a power grab and a money grab and this, and you know, a reset of the economy in the world, and it can't be more. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's jump back in, shall we? You can follow the science, but the science only follows the money. Yeah, we haven't had real medicine since like ever. We've never really had real medicine. Like modern medicine was garbage in like the 1800s, and just when they started to figure it out, Rockefeller figured out how to monetize and just derailed all of medicine. We were so close. We could have been so good because we were learning a lot. Because like people didn't know what, like back in like the late 1800s, you could like buy a medical license. If you were rich, you would just go buy one, and you could say, "Oh, I'm practicing medicine." You could literally buy it. You could sidestep. There were a couple schools. There were very few, but you could literally sidestep the training by being rich and going and buying a degree or a license. You could just buy it. And then one would think we are much better off today, but it's pretty much the same in a weird way, believe it or not. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let's jump back in. Where are we? Right here. So, are these vaccines even like what's going on in the body, right? Like we know they're shedding, you know, they still require these vaccines, but like what's going on? Like this well, there's this video. There was an admission from Pfizer to the FDA that they don't really have an understanding of what their own vaccine is doing inside the body, which means they probably do have an understanding of what the vaccine is doing inside the body, and it's probably not good. Pfizer shouldn't be saying, oh, we don't know what our vaccine is doing to people because it's being injected into billions of people. The Pfizer vaccine is everywhere. The mRNA ones, which are probably the most problematic, even though it seems like all of these vaccines are problematic for the most part. Maybe not Cuba's. I haven't seen much data there, but most of the major vaccines are problematic, very, very problematic. And this one in particular, I just can't believe it. Let me know if you can hear it.
Obviously, we don't have a complete understanding of the nature of the way that the vaccine works in terms of producing an immune response. Obviously, we don't have a complete understanding of the nature of the way that the vaccine works in terms of producing an immune response.
I would also like you to talk a little bit about your breakthrough disease and see if there was any differences in the severity of disease in those who had received the vaccine versus those who were in the placebo group. I'm asking about the disease profiles in those two groups.
The nature of severity of the illness we've actually included in your briefing document, and there was really no difference if we looked at all the cases. So I'm talking about based on the number of symptoms that they had in terms of breakthrough compared to placebo, whether it was 1, 2, 3 or more symptoms. There really was not a dime's worth of difference between the respective groups, between those that break through that had received vaccine versus placebo. So that gave us confidence in that larger sort of population of cases that we have that does not appear to be an issue.
Did you hear that? He said it didn't make a dime's worth of difference between the placebo group and the vaccinated group. What? What do you mean it didn't make a dime's worth of difference? So I don't really get it, guys. It's like they're well aware that both groups still get sick. Both groups still get the disease. They just admitted it, and they don't know what's going on inside the body. This is crazy. This is actually crazy. It gets even crazier. Let's finish the video. What? I can't believe that he admits all this casually, and no one has a problem with it. They're like, yeah, whatever. Meh, meh, meh.
And it also doesn't seem to, if the disease is the same in the placebo group, it didn't show a necessary advantage of the vaccine. I guess was what I was
I guess the advantage of the vaccine is you're preventing the infection in the first place, right?
I guess
so,
that.
That's the big advantage, right? But the good news is it doesn't seem to make
No, it doesn't prevent infection.
the vaccine. And I think that's an important thing and why we looked at it. Thank you. But the good news is it doesn't seem to make the disease worse.
I guess I'm a little bit confused about this dosing in terms of micrograms, because your dosing is 3 micrograms, the Moderna dosing is 25 micrograms. Clearly, we're thinking in terms of micrograms the way we would think of proteins as a way of inducing an immune response, and yet the purpose of mRNA is to induce protein production. So is your mRNA just more efficient at making cells produce protein, or how should we think of micrograms in terms of the amount of spike protein that's produced by the cells? Can you kind of clarify that?
Yeah, I'll leave to Moderna to describe the nature of how they address their vaccine dosage. But I think obviously we don't have a complete understanding of the nature of the way that the vaccine works in terms of producing an immune response. So you have to go by the results. And the results are that in the setting of giving a 3 microgram dose, we had low reactogenicity compared to placebo. And after a third dose, just as in adults at higher doses, we're getting an immune response that's comparable. It may well be that children, we've seen certainly that we're able to go down to a lower dose in children, and the expectation is perhaps they have a more robust response. That seems to be the case based on giving a 10 microgram dose to 5 to 11s and 3 micrograms to younger.
But have you ever measured the amount of protein that's produced as a result of the mRNA, and how many cells are producing it, and how persistent that production is for a given microgram of mRNA?
That's a pretty broad question. I think that's obviously an interesting question to better understand the mechanism, and I would say it's somewhat academic in the setting of what we're trying to achieve here in terms of getting an immune response and a safety profile that's satisfactory, but worthwhile for people to pursue.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just, Dr. Jansen, the head of vaccine research and development, would like to make a comment about that last question.
Very brief.
Thank you, Bill. I think one important consideration for the answer to the question that was just posed is that the 2 mRNA vaccines are not created equal. They're actually very different vaccines. They use the same platform. They have different formulations. And so I think that's important to recognize. And the second piece is that we, of course, have optimized the vaccine for optimal expression of the antigens themselves. And if you ask the question, is there a large number of protein molecules expressed in the cells, the answer is yes. Thank you.
Thank you both. Dr. Cohen, final question.
That we, of course, have optimized the vaccine for optimal expression of the antigens themselves. And if you ask the question, is there a large number of protein molecules expressed in the cells, the answer is yes.
What the hell did we just watch? What on earth? So we don't know what it does inside the body. The symptoms of vaccinated people and unvaccinated people. Oh my God, what is going? Stop playing. Something's playing in the background. Sorry. So they don't know what it does inside the body. The symptoms of vaccinated people and unvaccinated people are the same. He alleged that it prevents illness, which right now we're seeing that vaccinated people, according to Walgreens and Aegis, COVID-19 surveillance data, is not true. That the vaccinated people, especially those with 2 shots or 3 shots after 5 months, are testing positive at the highest rate. And then they said that the mRNA and Pfizer formulations are very different, right? But Fauci's like, oh yeah, mix and match. It doesn't matter if you got Pfizer the first time, you can take the Moderna this time, and these formulations don't seem to matter to anyone. This is not science. This is not scientific at all. This is just like, yeah, we don't know what it does, and it does a thing. It does create an immune response. Well, no shit. You inject any kind of poison or toxin or anything that doesn't belong in your body's gonna be like, hey, something's wrong. Something just squirted through your arm. Usually you eat things, you breathe air, that's what your body knows. Your body's like, yeah, you breathe the air, you eat the food, you drink the water, right? And then when something's squirting through your arm, it's like, something's wrong. Especially if there's little pieces of metal in there, little lipid nanoparticles, like weird protein things. Like, what the fuck? Little instructions, mRNA instructions that ends up in your liver lining, changes your DNA. Literally, it's in the study. Don't at me. It's literally in a study. So gene therapy transfections is what we're looking at, if we're being specific. But thank you for common sense. Yeah, like, you don't have to be a scientist to sit here and be like, oh, these guys have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Or they know what they're talking about and they're just lying to you. So it's one or the other. They're either idiots, which I don't know, man. These people are they're articulate people from a very, very corrupt company that's publicly corrupt. They've lied about a lot of things. They've been sued for fraud before. They've had medicines that kill people, and they were just like, meh, let's come up with a new medicine to pay for the last one that killed a bunch of people. That's kind of like their history. Like Pfizer's like that. Many of these pharmaceutical companies are like that. Like, they're known for this. We were talking about the opioid crisis for years right before COVID hit, right? Oh, these pharmaceutical companies are horrible. They don't care. They're going to keep selling their opioids, and they're going to make tons of money off of it. They do the same thing with vaccines. The vaccine schedule is crazy in America because they make money. If you get your vaccine on the vaccine schedule, and there's a huge competition for that, they'll do anything to make that happen. And they'll do anything to knock off the competition off the vaccine schedule to bring in a new vaccine. That's happened before, where they've combined vaccines, right? Measles, mumps, and rubella. When those three were separate, there was a lot less disease in kids and a lot less chronic illness. When they combined them, made a super vaccine, and someone swooped in and knocked the others off the schedule, then we saw less healthy kids. So it's weird. Like, it's very, very strange. Yeah, they will admit that, no, we don't know what's doing inside your body, but it's doing a thing. You kind of have to know a little bit, guys. Like, you tested it on animals. You tested this technology on animals over years. Like, mRNA technology is not even new, but it has killed a lot of animals in the labs, right? So you kind of know something about what's going on. Makes me wonder, what is their end game? Like, if this is what they're saying in hearings, like, what is their end game? Cannot be good. It is us crazy making when highly educated and trained people espouse lies that kill. And the ones asking questions are the crazy ones. Right. We're the crazy ones for asking questions. How dare you challenge the experts? Well, I don't know, guys. Y'all said if people took this, then they wouldn't get sick. They did. They wouldn't, we wouldn't be in this anymore. And there are places in the world where, like, there are 90% plus compliance. Like, there are regions of the world, parts of countries, parts of states that are like 90% plus compliant, and they have tons of cases of COVID. Like, you can't blame a small minority of unvaccinated people for vaccinated people being sick, especially the ones that keep taking the shots over and over and over again, guys. At some point, you're just lying, You can only be so shifty before, like, even the dumb people are like, no, guys. Like, come on. Shit doesn't work, and it's not safe. It's really not. What up, Propaganda? Good to see you again. Propaganda might come on the show soon and tell a personal story, which these things need to be heard. We're still, like, not allowed to talk about this shit. I'm talking about it. It's crazy. It's like I'm a healthcare activist, and I'm like not into the vaccine thing, which is funny. People are like, how can you be against these vaccines and against mandates and be a healthcare activist? I'm like, because when you get shot with this crap and it puts you in the hospital, you have to pay. Duh. Like, if it was single payer healthcare, you wouldn't have to pay for it. It sucks that you have to pay for it if you get hurt from Pfizer's shot, doesn't it? That really sucks. That's a stupid system. It's stupid that they have a liability shield to begin with. And I was talking about this earlier on my stream when I was walking around, right after the hearing for Julian Assange at the British. Another hearing, but the press briefing for Julian Assange at the British consulate. I was talking about how they have an alopecia drug now, which is funny, coming just a few weeks after the slap heard around the world, Will Smith's slap of Chris Rock. There's an alopecia drug coming out that also treats COVID-19. And it has like the same symptoms as the adverse reactions from the COVID vaccines. Like they're trying to like cross all the wires now to confuse the hell out of everyone, including scientists, in my opinion. It is getting weird. It's getting very, very strange. So that's where we're at. That's always fun. Hey, everyone in the chat. Look at all these people. I'm so surprised I have so many people tonight. I haven't done one of these in a minute. DNCIA Dems. Oh, you want free healthcare? Sure. This shot is free. Let's start there. Yeah, and that's the problem. All the like the shit lib Dems are like, see, this is universal healthcare. This is just a taste of what it would be. Hell no, it ain't, bitch. This is medical tyranny. Me not paying if I like break my leg and then go and get it, fixed at the hospital and not paying, that is a beautiful taste of free healthcare. Not this shit where you have to get a needle in your arm to like work at your job. Nah, there's something else going on there, guys. Like you didn't pick up on that, guys, when there was something weird? When they didn't let you know what's in the shit and they didn't they didn't believe in informed consent. No one believed in informed consent all of a sudden. All these doctors who took the Hippocratic Oath, all of a sudden they're like, yeah, just roll up your sleeve. Why? Because they don't know what's in the shit either. So they don't even know what to tell you. They can't actually tell you. It's kind of an embarrassing place to be in, right? Very awkward position for a doctor to be in or a nurse to be in. Yeah, I'm going to give you this thing, but I don't really know what this thing does or what's in it. And in fact, Pfizer won't even tell us what it does inside your body. So how would I know what it does inside your body? Right? So informed consent went out the window. I mean, by law, it went out the window as well. They put that. It's in one of the old things that they pushed through a few years back where, in a case of an emergency situation, informed consent can go out the window. Thanks, Obama. So, whoa, bright lights. So there's that. This is my little Death Star because, well, death is very relevant these days. We just dig that big old mic thing. You're not afraid to use it. And getting COVID 2 and 3 times double vax. That's where it's scary now because, they had the war on ivermectin because they kind of had to pave the way for, Paxlovid and Molnupiravir, which clearly don't work. Like, especially in vaccinated people, if you take Paxlovid, you're going to be fine for like a few days and you're like, oh my God, it worked. And then you get slammed with COVID more. Like, I don't even know what is going on. They're doing science experiments inside your body. Paxlovid literally has a rebound. You take it, if you're vaccinated and you take it, you think it's going to help. You think it's helping you. And then all of a sudden you hit a wall and you're sick all over again. This cannot be good. Like, what? So there's that. Paxlovid, guys. Don't recommend. That mic is an AI spook. That's funny. What else we got in here? Hello, vegan, suck your balls. We are all petri dishes. I really feel like we are at this point. Like, and people haven't caught up. I thought people would start catching up. I thought people would be like, oh yeah, a year ago I told you to go fuck yourself because you said that the vaccines aren't good. And you're right now. So now I'm like cool with you. And can you like catch me up? Because I'm behind. No, these people are still behind and are still praising Lord Pfizer, Lord Fauci, Lord Moderna. They're still praising these companies and these people who are clearly the criminals who are profiteering, but also there's something else going on. I'm like certain of it. This is weird. Very, very strange. What is the angle we're talking about? What angle are we talking? Could you think of a better way to decrease the popularity of single-payer healthcare than mandatory lethal injections? Yeah. And single-payer healthcare is still where it's at. It's still where it's at because you don't pay for shit. So if you get into a car accident and you wake up in the hospital and all of a sudden you have like $100,000 in debt, they literally just slap it on you, and these hospitals can sue you. They can literally sue you. They can literally put a lien on your house. That's a form of slavery. So even if you don't ever want to go to the hospital and don't plan on ever going to the hospital, single payer healthcare is good, because if you end up in the hospital for whatever reason, because it happens to a lot of people, you don't leave in medical debt. That's the beauty of single payer healthcare. It's all about the payment. It's all about the payment. And it really wrecks health insurance companies. It really wrecks them. And they're the ones that extract all the wealth. A lot of the money in healthcare goes directly to the stockholders of health insurance companies and the executives. A lot of the money. And tons of admin costs and middlemen. Tons of that. Huge, complex system. Single payer streamlines the entire system, and there's no money being extracted by health insurance companies. That's the beauty of single payer. It's not perfect, and you still have to fight with these horrible pharmaceutical companies. The CDC will still be corrupt. The FDA will still be corrupt. The whole system will still be corrupt, but you don't go in medical debt, especially when a freak accident happens, which happens to a lot of people. And might happen even more in the next several years, because there's a lot of crazy things happening in the world. So, yeah, I will keep fighting for single payer healthcare, but also I'm not down with any of the shit that's going on. Like, at the same time, it's crazy. It's a weird place to be in, because I am a minority in this country. That's for sure. In that sense. All right. Namaste. What's up, gamer? How we doing? Had to get surgery when I broke my hand and didn't pay anything. The beauty of single payer. You'd be screwed if you lived in America, or you were in America at that time. Was that Canada? Where was that propaganda? Many years ago, when I went to an ER in NYC and gave them a fake name, as I had no insurance. Don't they usually require ID or something? But I guess like they have to treat you anyways if you don't have your ID. Oh my goodness. What's up, X? All right. What up? British Columbia, Canada. I want a Pentagon weapons program style single payer system where the government just cuts checks and doesn't ask questions or make any demands. Yeah, just like the Pentagon, just pay for it. If the budget needs to go up, it needs to go up. It's exactly how I feel about single payer. I feel like that's the goal. I had an ulcer and didn't pay for treatment. Beautiful. People think that state insurances are free, but in Connecticut, they rack up the bills, and if you get a settlement, they come after the money. Yeah, it's all a scam. It's horrible. I got bit by a dog and didn't pay for treatment. You've been through some shit. You need to live in a bubble. Yeah, stop bragging about all your free health care that you got, eh? Canada? All right, so we have more. Let's jump back in, eh? Canada sucks now, huh? They're going full blown mask off fascist in fucking Canada. Kind of glad to be in America for once. Ooh. All right, so that was that. We're gonna move on to this is funny because we're talking about how like we know now that the COVID vaccine shed literally in a study. I mean, you can dispute the study, but there seemed to be a difference between kids from unvaccinated households and vaccinated households. So, and people have said, oh, the flu vaccine, it sheds and it makes people sick around, people who were recently vaccinated. It's like, what? It sheds? And, that study came out for COVID. And then this is an interesting little piece. This came out right before things shut down for coronavirus in 2020. So we knew about coronavirus already. We knew about SARS or whatever we want to call it. I don't really believe all the nonsense behind the origin story, but we've talked about it before for another time. But this is very interesting. Influenza vaccine. Military study shows 36% higher odds of coronavirus, specifically for the 2017-2018 season. What? Yeah, it's very random. Like, I don't know. There's a huge study, and you can paid $36 to see all the data and stuff. But yeah, there's a few things that people, I mean, allegedly, people who are vaccinated versus people who are not vaccinated with the flu vaccine that year. Certain viruses were higher in the vaccinated, certain viruses were higher in the unvaccinated. I don't know why, or if this is just completely random. The sample size is pretty decent. I mean, there are thousands of people, obviously, because some of these viruses were into the thousands. So, in coronavirus, it says 507 vaccinated people were tested. I mean, obviously, PCR test is not perfect, and there's a lot of false positives and false negatives. But 507 came up on the old test for coronavirus in the vaccinated group, which is 7.8% of the entire population, the group. So we're looking at rates, not just the total, but the rate, 7.8% of them, and only 5.8% in the unvaccinated group. I thought that was just an interesting little stat. It's not like that in all of them. Certain things like the metapneumovirus is another one where it's much higher in the vaccinated. But most of them were higher in the unvaccinated, which I don't know if I really believe all that, or if it's all a PCR little scam. I don't know. And this is funny, I thought. Get ahead of it. Even though there's no vaccine to prevent coronavirus, here are a few practical ideas to protect yourself and your loved ones. Get a flu shot. You're more likely to have coronavirus or test positive for coronavirus if you get the flu shot. I think that's very weird. That's very, very interesting little tidbit. And it comes from a study, so it's not just a random BS thing. It literally came from a study that you can purchase for $36, but that was a little screen grab from the study. I thought that was very interesting, so I had to share that. Makes me wonder, like, is there more to the flu vaccine thing? A lot of people have talked about, was there something going on with the flu vaccine, and then we had the COVID vaccine, and are they all shedding? Are they all interconnected somehow? With our health, I'm sure there's a common thread there, but like, there are people that actually say the flu vaccine, maybe in China even originally, and then around the world, had something to do with how this was introduced to the world. I don't know if it is or isn't, but it is an interesting theory, because clearly you can inject things into people that make them sick. And it's very, very secretive, especially if you're doing it at a grand scale. The flu vaccine is given to tons of people. The COVID vaccine is given to even more people, right? So it's pretty secret, pretty sketchy way to put stuff into people's bodies. Let's go back to that a little bit more, shall we? I think it's interesting to explore this. So there was that little tidbit. And then, now this was a study done at a hospital somewhere in Spain. It's in Espanol, which I'm not going to read to you, but there's an abstract. It's also in English. So I'll just read the abstract real quick, because even they think there's something up with the old flu vaccine. The aim of this study is to analyze the coronavirus pandemic from the double point of view of pharmacoepidemiology and pharmacovigilance, based on epidemiological analysis of COVID-19 deaths in the health sector attended by the hospital of Barbastro, and the study of the pharmacotherapeutic history of affected patients. It was found that the most common drug to all the deceased people who died of COVID-19 was, I'm not sure how they pronounce this. I guess this is in Spanish, so it would be like chiromas, maybe. I don't know. This led to the hypothesis that the influenza vaccination of the 2019-2020 campaign could be associated with an increased risk of deaths by COVID-19 in people over 65 years of age. And we know that a lot of the old people died off pretty fast in the beginning, especially in countries like Italy, Spain, America. That is to say, to the suspicion of a possible iatrogenesis. So that just means something that causes disease, I think. Suspicion that was confirmed when accessing data from another sector. The current situation of vaccine pharmacovigilance in Spain is reviewed, seeking a way of communication of the aforementioned suspicion that is agile and dynamic. There is an apparent overconfidence in vaccine safety, far from the principle of prudence. A possible mechanism of action is proposed for the hypothesis of immunological interference with parenteral polysorbate 80, and the degree of concordance of the expected data is compared to those observed, concluding that the hypothesis could be valid, and that is why it is decided to publish it. That's maybe like the perfect English translation there, but you get the point that there is some kind of connection between the flu vaccine and COVID. All these people that died of COVID also had the flu vaccine. What? Isn't that interesting? It makes me wonder. Like, I know a lot of people had comorbidities. People that died, right? A lot of them had comorbidities, so that was obvious. Like, if you were elderly, you had, if you were obese, if you had autoimmune disease, you're at much higher risk. But like, how many of those people? Those are the people that they tell. Hey, get the flu shot. You're elderly, get the flu shot. You have autoimmune issues. Get the flu shot. Most doctors will tell people. Some autoimmune issues would probably prevent you from getting the flu shot, I would imagine, depending on who your doctor is. But a lot of those people are afraid of the flu, so the doctor is going to recommend the flu shot. I wonder what the connection is between COVID mortality and the flu shot, which is very interesting. Seems like, one could just be like, oh yeah, old people get the flu shot, and old people are more likely to die from COVID, so that's why there's the connection in Spain. That is an obvious conclusion to be made as well. Like, little kids get the flu shot, and even some adults. They push the flu shot so much in America that people of all ages get the flu shot here. Literally all ages. Not as much in like the millennial generation as the little kids or the elderly, but people of all ages get the flu shot. It's very interesting. We'll talk about the flu vaccine a little bit more in just a moment. I want to hit these. Very chatty tonight. I'm glad. I love it. Remember China locking people down? Oh yeah, Jackson Hinkle. Remember Jackson Hinkle? You're always on the Jackson Hinkle. You're always on that. Oh man, military loaded me up with every vaccine imaginable. I can't imagine. I can't. They just line people up and you don't even know what it is. They don't even tell you what it is. That's what I've heard. That's crazy to me. It was either that or a dishonorable discharge. I probably would have been discharged, to be honest. I can't. The smallpox vax went wrong, and I spent 6 weeks in hospital quarantine with a real case of smallpox. Yeah, they said we eradicated smallpox. Bro, we didn't eradicate shit. Nope. And a lot of these vaccines, like, people always go, yeah, where would we be without the smallpox vaccine or the polio vaccine? It'd probably be better off. Polio is linked to like DDT. Smallpox is like linked to bad sanitation. Like, disease doesn't just appear in people. You're not born full of diseases and then we have to squirt them out of you with vaccines. Like, people got it all backwards. First, figure out where the disease comes from. Don't just assume everyone's sick and then they need a vaccine. Because if they don't get a vaccine, they're going to spread their sickness to everyone. Don't just assume people are born sick. That's ridiculous. That's kind of how we're trained to think, right? Figure out where disease comes from first, and then fix that problem. And then we'll talk about vaccines. Don't need a vaccine if you fix the problem. It's really that easy. But they create problems now on purpose. That's the weird thing. They figured out the old trick. It's pretty fucked up. Yeah, and it shows you, the smallpox vaccine gives you smallpox. So there you go. Gives you all kinds of crap. What did Hinkle do? I don't know. He's like TMZ for indie media at this point. I debated Bosch. Like, who cares? I really hate the hypocrisy of people who dunk on the USA and Western nations for this kind of stuff, but never China. It's so pathetic that they are not actually. Yeah, man. See, I was talking about this earlier too. Like, I know America and China colluded on this COVID thing. It's not like, oh, what China did it, America did it, and they both point fingers at each other, but they clearly colluded. There's collusion between Fauci, EcoHealth Alliance, and Wuhan Institute of Virology and whatnot. They all have contracts, and they all like swap talent and samples of coronaviruses and all this stuff. They've been doing this shit for years. So America and China are in cahoots, but also China and Russia are in cahoots. So it makes me think, like, are Russia and America also in cahoots then? Is everyone just in cahoots now? Is it all like fake, the geopolitics? Is the proxy war in Ukraine kind of fake? Because if Russia's tight with China and China's tight with America, this might be just one giant game of, political theater. I don't know. It's hard to tell these days. It's getting pretty sophisticated. All this propaganda. I'm not anti-China. I won't lie about them, but I won't lie for China. They are a terrible government. I do not support. I mean, they're all terrible. Like, Russia's not good. China's not good. America's not good. Israel's not good. Saudi Arabia's not good. They're not good. All the good ones, all the good ones get cooed, right? Like, they're good for a couple years, and America comes in and wipes them out. They would be good without us, but we usually change that real quick, don't we? He did. Yeah, Hinkle pissed off Glory big time. Yeah, that's valid. I think the Giant Club has political views like the Ukrainian war. It's pettish. Yeah. In the distance, I hear squirting vaccines, squirting germs. What? Oh my goodness. All right, so I got one more thing for the flu vaccine. Is it related? Let me know in the chat if you think the flu vaccine has anything to do with COVID mortality, poor health overall, better health overall. Do you think the flu vaccine works? Do you think it's good for people? Let me know in the chat. It's a controversial topic outside of my little bubble, but I think this group is cool. I think you are okay entertaining this topic. Let me know what you think. Give me that strike, baby. Give me that strike. I always get strikes for talking about this stuff. Now, this one's interesting. Contamination or vaccine research? ? RNA sequencing data of early COVID-19 patient samples show abnormal presence of vectorized H7N9 hemagglutinin segment. This is by Dr. Stephen Quay and a few other people. This is an international collabo, so I kind of like it. It's India, Australia, and I believe Stephen Quay is American. Doesn't say his country. He's either American or he's Canadian. Take your pick. Does it matter? Not really. Abstract. A reanalysis of the metatranscriptome data generated at the Wuhan Institute of Virology from bronchial alveolar lavage fluid, specimens of 5 early SARS-CoV-2 patients, was done. The data of these 5 patients had been obtained by the Wuhan Institute of Virology on 2 different NGS machines, the MiSeq and the NGISeq 2000 RS. Very fancy machines. The MGISeq 2000 RS gave 10 times more data than the MiSeq machine, and therefore it was possible to see more detail. Surprisingly, all 5 samples analyzed by the MGISeq 2000 RS machine showed the presence of this is a very small sample size, so I understand. But all 5 samples analyzed by MGISeq 2000 RS machine showed the presence of a sequence H7N9 hemagglutinin A segment 4 gene in a relatively high proportion, and in one case 6 times the abundance of the SARS-CoV-2 sequences. The presence of non-SARS-CoV-2, including these influenza A genes, has been reported earlier, and this data was also used in our current study for comparison and analysis. The surprising finding was the HA segment 4 gene cloned in an expression vector, PVAX1, confirming previously identified vector sequences. A Wuhan Institute of Virology publication documented that DNA vaccines containing H7N9HA genes were being developed and tested in mice and the Wuhan Institute of Virology at the same time as the outbreak in 2019-2020. So, I mean, yeah. This is interesting. So they find a high level of this influenza gene in these early COVID cases in Wuhan, right? So here's the conclusion. In conclusion, the RNA sequencing data of the earliest patient samples analyzed in Wuhan on the MGI-Seq 2000 machine raises a number of critical questions. The most important question being the possibility that SARS-CoV-2 was the result of a lab accident. I don't think it was an accident. That included an influenza H7N9 DNA vaccine. Is there a connection between flu vaccines and COVID? I don't know, man. This is crazy to me. And I'm someone who's big on the idea that this could be multifactorial. Multifactorial. Because they pulled off this COVID thing, right? If you're trying to get people sick and scared enough into taking gene therapy, basically, you don't want to just release something that's actually going to naturally evolve and possibly kill off literally everyone. You have to control this somehow. There has to be some way of controlling it. One idea is that there is a cure, and the elites already just have a cure that they, I guess, use as prophylactic, and they just constantly take the cure. Or there's not a virus that's just ripping through. It's we're constantly being exposed to something that they're putting in our atmosphere, or they're injecting into people who are shedding it, yada, yada, yada. However, maybe there's multiple factors at play here. I've always thought there might be multiple factors because you could pull this off if you have multiple things happening at once. Like, are there little nanoparticles that are excited at a certain frequency? Do they release something? Because you can actually use nanoparticles as carriers of medications or viruses, right? They can actually carry viruses. So if you flipped on the 5G and the 4G, because they have overlapping frequencies, I think there's a certain frequency where it really excites certain nanoparticles that would be carriers, like carbon nanoparticles. Like I think it's like 900 megahertz or some shit. I don't know, but there's a frequency that I think it's an overlap of 4G and 5G, and it literally can excite those particles. Can that release something into the body? And might you shed that out? I don't know. That sounds very sophisticated, but I think it's also very possible. They've already talked about the vaccines that spread around, right? The vaccines that's self-spreading. Is that actually happening? Is it spreading? Very weird. Very interesting. Because we know that they did not stop putting out the 5G anywhere. That was all around the world. And I know my internet's not faster. So why do we have to put that out during COVID when everything else was shut down? Why did we have to do that? And I don't think we're all microchipped yet. So they didn't have to hook us all up to the Internet of Bodies, even though that is something they want to do. That is something they're actually trying to do. They're pretty open about the Internet of Bodies at this point. But that wasn't implemented during 2020. So why'd they have to get all these 5G towers up? Why? Because they went up everywhere. Did they have to shake something up? Did they have to excite something? I don't know. It's very weird. Very strange, but maybe not. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe 5G was just a really expensive project for no reason, because they're spending trillions on it. The infrastructure for 5G is crazy. They're like every other building down the avenues here in New York, in Midtown at least. Like I would say, like not every other building, every other block probably has like a cluster of 5G. So you'll be walking and you're like, oh, 5G, and you look down about a block or two, and you'll see, oh, another cluster. A block or two, another cluster. It's like, that's a lot. We're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of panels just in Manhattan alone. That's crazy. That's a lot more than what we had before. Like 4G was nothing compared to 5G here in New York. It's like everywhere. We're blanketed in 5G. But nothing's working better. Are they going to start making products compatible with all the stuff that we're currently bathing in? It's very strange. like if you don't have a lot of 5G products out, what's the point of overhauling everything so fast in the middle of COVID? It's really be really nice to know. Huh? Never really sat well with me. Let's be clear, not an accident, and it was built somewhere other than the Oswald Institute of Virology in Wuhan. Think as all still pit 444 Dietrich Dugway. But yeah, I mean, there's so many places. There's so many labs. I think the United States recently like low key admitted that they've been backing like 46 biolabs in Ukraine. There's like 46 of them. Like a handful of them were already discovered by a journalist who covers all of these biolabs in these countries, mainly around the border of Russia and the border of China, and they're all American. They're all Pentagon-funded biolabs, and some in Africa as well. She already found them in 25 countries, I think, but there's 46 alone in Ukraine. What? That's actually nuts, right? And it's very interesting because the Ukraine biolabs are very tied into so much other stuff. They're connected to like In-Q-Tel, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, EcoHealth Alliance. Like those Ukrainian labs, specifically those. It's almost like they knew that this Russia thing was going to happen, or maybe the timing was a little off. But it's like it's all kind of connected in a weird way. I'm just saying, very strange. Very strange. What else we have? I watched a thing on future weapons, and there is patents out on this stuff. Yeah. This stuff all exists. Yes, I agree. There's a component with frequencies and nanotechnology. See, someone else feels that too, right? Like I feel like there's something else going on. You don't unleash a virus that could wipe out everyone. If it's a virus and we're saying it's evolving, I don't think it's really like there's some crazy virus that's like the most contagious thing of all time, and it's evolving so fast. Oh, this now we have different, because we did get different symptoms, right? When Omicron came, people had different symptoms. Doctors were like, oh, these are like, I remember multiple doctors posting like these are the exact symptoms that people are having. This is right before they named Omicron, right? They were like, oh, it's more upper respiratory, and before it was like lower respiratory. Like they literally were diagnosing something different. It was similar to COVID, the original COVID, but it was definitely not the same thing. And then scientists were like, this is different, and it's not matching up with the original strain from Wuhan. Even with their junk science they do, it was a different thing. It was obviously different. So I think a lot of it's vaccination. I think Delta came out of nowhere, right? There wasn't a major shift. I mean, obviously, like each person's sickness is going to be different from the next person's, but like there was a huge shift with Delta, right? And that was during the first vaccine rollout. And there was a huge shift again when we started vaccinating like kids, and the booster shots came out, right? It almost seems like it. And then there's a new round of flu shots in the fall as well, and that's right before Omicron became the dominant, right? It was dominant by November, December tops, right? So I don't know. There's a weird connection between vaccination and something else and COVID. I just have that vibe. I feel like there's something weird going on. There are multiple parts, and we just kind of it's like walking into like a glass door. We were just like, yeah, and then boom. It was there the whole time, but we didn't see it, right? We kind of just let them do this thing, and maybe it wasn't obvious. Maybe they really were sly with this, but this is definitely planned. It's like it's too obvious. I mean, the contracts and all the papers and stuff too, like Fauci and like NIAID and North Carolina signing a contract for coronavirus vaccines in December of 2019 before they were supposed to know that SARS-CoV-2 was a thing. They were signing these contracts. Guys, that's horrible timing. But those contracts leaked a long time ago. So it's like, There's foreknowledge. There's too many coincidences. If it's one or two, you're like, okay, that's a coincidence. But like, nope, not a coincidence. Nope. It isn't. But they're very calculated. This is a very good op, man. This is a very good little operation. You need those patents to make the big bucks before your invention destroys humanity. 5G activation is all about mass surveillance. Yeah, I think 5G might have a couple different uses. I mean, 5G wavelengths bands can literally be used as, I mean, military grade weapons. Like they use 5G weaponry basically back in the 80s. You know, the what is it, 60 what is the, I forget, but you can, all these panels can be set to like basically fry you. They it's ionizing radiation. They can turn it to that. So I know these can be used as military grade weapons. I've looked at it. They like, who did it? CNN did like an expose in 1985. These can be used as microwave weapons. Facts. So it's not just about the Internet of Things and bodies, which that's in place for that as well. And 6G is gonna make 5G obsolete anyways. They're just gonna expand. Yeah, microchips into your phone. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Just new technology. Yeah, Diliana, she's the one that does all the. I can't believe she's still going. They have not shut her down. That's incredible. She's the one that goes around and finds all the biolabs, and she like literally digs up the contracts the Pentagon has with all these foreign biolabs, and she asks questions, and they don't like her. And she's pretty badass, to be honest. It's always Putin's fault. Always Putin's fault. Once again, it falls to Russia to resist fascism. Yeah, isn't that weird? Like how does Russia go from good guy to bad guy to good guy to bad? Like, what is going on with the old Russia? Are they really going to resist? I don't know if they are. I feel like it's all fake. I feel like they're going to be controlled opposition now. Russia. I think we're kind of doomed. People need to wake up. People really do. I don't know who's really on our side anymore. I really don't. Like small countries. There's some small countries that are, but besides that, I don't know. Mike Rupert saw this all coming 20 years ago. Yeah, some people call this. That's the thing. With the vaccine thing, like multiple people called this. A True Ott called this. They talked about it on the Conspiracy Theory show. What's that doctor's name? Oh my God, what's her name? She came on the Conspiracy Theory show. That was on like cable television. Her name is escaping me. But she talked about it. Her husband also was like a Fed, and she used to talk about it. I don't know if she was like almost like a whistleblower or if she was like planting the seed. I can't even tell sometimes with these people. Mike Rupert. Yeah, there were several people, that called this sort of weird plot, this sort of compulsory vaccination. It's the cure, but we're going to sell it as the cure, but it's actually going to hurt you. I'm seeing Judy Mikovits. Yeah. I haven't seen a video of hers in a while, but she's usually pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. The flu vaccine. There's something weird there, but maybe it's not that important. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. It's not a big puzzle piece in all of this, but I do think it has something to do with the COVID plot, so to speak. Let's jump back in. So fast forward to the past week, and we're just seeing like lots of news stories now. At first, you're like, okay, there's a few adverse reactions. There's this happened, that happened. VAERS is, openvaers.com. You can go to see, VAERS has all the safety signals, and they did spike over the past year, and we know that. But but we didn't know like if that was going to continue to happen, especially in people who stopped getting the vaccine. I don't know. I don't know that it's stopping. Because this past week has been really bad. I've seen lots and lots of just stories of people being like mysterious death, didn't wake up and blah, blah, blah. Here's just a few of them, for some context here. Friends help save Sonoma teen's life after cardiac arrest collapse on basketball court. Now this just could be like a 17-year-old with a heart attack, which was pretty rare before COVID. I'm just saying. But this one could just be like a random heart attack. We'll see. A 17-year-old Sonoma teenager was helicoptered to Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital on Wednesday in cardiac arrest. The quick thinking of his friends likely kept him alive. Around 8:30 p.m., the teens were playing basketball at the outdoor courts at Sonoma Valley High School's athletic complex when one of the players collapsed. His friend immediately started CPR. Yo, I don't think I had a friend that knew CPR in high school, so this is pretty badass. Said Steve Aker, chief of Sonoma's fire department. Another friend called 911, and then that teen called 911 and then found the automated external defibrillator. What? So, teens doing their thing. It's pretty awesome. They did everything they could possibly do, he said. They did everything right. So actually, kind of a hopeful story. This teen had some kind of cardiac arrest and collapsed. Some more stories here. Congressman Casten says 17-year-old daughter died in her sleep. And we're seeing a lot of people die in their sleep now. Ray Liotta, the 17-year-old girl. We're seeing just more and more and more of this. Downers Grove. Yeah, what a downer. Downers Grove, Illinois. In his first public statement since the announcement of the death of his beloved daughter, Gwen, U.S. Rep. Sean Casten said, there are no words to describe the hole in your heart when a child dies. I'm really tired of the heart quotes. They're always talking about their heart. Like, half these people died because their heart stopped. Like, what is going on? Stop it with the heart quotes, people. Casten said in a statement on Facebook that his daughter went to bed Sunday evening and did not wake up the next morning. Downers Grove police and paramedics were called to the home around 7 a.m. Monday for an unresponsive 17-year-old female. We had dinner as a family, and then she went out with some friends for a few hours, and when she got home, she said goodnight to Kara and I, texted a friend to make sure she got home okay, and didn't wake up on Monday morning. The only thing we know about her death is that it was peaceful, and the only lesson we can take from this is to savor the moments that you have with your loved ones. We want purpose. We want to believe in a brighter tomorrow. God, he's using this to get reelected, isn't he? But the only thing we can control is our present. Oh my God, shut up. Shut up. Casten, who's currently running in the primary, described his daughter as a happy, healthy, well-adjusted young woman. So she didn't have any health issues apparently, and she didn't seem suicidal because she was just going out with her friends. So I don't know, guys. Kind of weird. It's happening more and more often. These stories are just every day. There's always something. This is another young one. Tyler Sanders, dead at 18. Walking Dead spin-off actor dies at home, prompting investigation. Actor Tyler Sanders has reportedly died at home on Thursday at the age of 18. The Hollywood star, who is known for his role in 911 Lone Star with Rob Lowe, as well as a turn in Fear of the Walking Dead, was found at his Los Angeles home. The cause of death is still not known, and an autopsy will be conducted as well as an investigation. This is horrible. He was in a few things. He started acting professionally at age 10. Look at this. This is him. 8 years ago. Nathan Fillion, whoever that is, that guy, and Tyler Sanders in The Rookie. That kid mysteriously just dies. 18? 18? I don't know, man. That's mad young. And again, they want you to be vaccinated or get a negative test to watch a movie outside for Pride in New York. Always a fun time. Always a fun time. So that's what it's looking like. But what is the culprit? There's like heart attacks and there's strokes and there's prion disease and we've heard a bunch of different things, right? Clots. Is there one thing that connects all of them? I think there might be. I think there might be one culprit. It's starting to make more sense to me the more I read about it. There might be something that connects all of those adverse reactions that we're seeing. What up? What up, Eric? I had a friend in high school in 1997 drop dead of a heart attack during basketball tryouts. He was a star player. He ended up having a heart defect that can't be detected outside of autopsy. Yeah, that does happen. That did happen before. We acted like it didn't happen at all. But yeah, there were people who had congenital heart failure or, heart issues, that you just didn't know about. And you oftentimes have that your whole life, and you get to a certain point where you're overworking your heart and you bloop. That's totally a thing. But it's happening more and more often now, which is really scary. Really, really scary. I'm worried about people who are, working out a lot. A lot of athletes dropped in the past year, right? It was a huge spike in like cardiac arrest in athletes this past year, especially compared to 2020 when COVID started, right? Or really started. There was a little bit of a spike maybe from around COVID, but like 2021 is when it shot way, way up for athletes. I don't know, man. I think there's the general stress of the lockdowns, and that does take, we have to take that into consideration. Stress kills. That's why the most stressed out communities are the most unhealthy. There's a reason why certain communities are notoriously unhealthy. It's because they're traumatized and stressed out. Stress is actually a killer. Facts. And actually, like, stress and trauma at a young age can like literally change your biological makeup, your biodome. Like, it changes you on a cellular level. Stress, especially when you're young and still growing. It's crazy. There's so much to read into. There's so much to read on this topic, and there's still so much we don't even know. It's crazy. Now they want to, now the shots for kids, see, like that when they're still developing it, and little kids aren't dying of COVID. It's just not happening. And even the ones that they say are dying, some of those stories are like, meh. Some of them seem a little far-fetched. Trauma can be passed on. I truly believe trauma can be passed on. That's crazy. There's been a huge and sudden increase in heart defects. Scientists are baffled. Yeah, we're coming up with these new terms. SADs. Oh, yeah, so sad. Let's see if there's a culprit, though. Let's see if there is a culprit, because I've been reading a little bit. I've been wondering what is going on. What is actually happening? And I think we're learning more and more about that finally. It took a while, but I think we're getting there. So let's go back to the old thing here. So, oh no, I'm missing something. No, where did it go? I have to find it now. I lost a little tabby. I might have hit the X on it or something. I don't know. But Dr. Jessica Rose, she's the one back when they were trying to, I don't know if it was the Comirnaty approval. You might remember Pfizer approved Comirnaty, which is a label for their COVID-19 vaccine that doesn't really exist. It's not actually being used. So basically there's BNT162b2 or whatever the name of the COVID-19 vaccine is, which is still under emergency use authorization, meaning they can't be sued if their product harms you. Stupid rule, but it's all planned. And then they approved Comirnaty, which is a different label for the same, more or less the same COVID vaccine. There could be some kind of small formulation difference. I don't know. They approved that vaccine. That vaccine's not even on the market. So they approved something that's not on the market so they could say, oh, the Pfizer vaccine was approved. So all the people that were naysaying the Pfizer vaccine or were saying, oh, I'm not getting it until it's approved by the FDA, like actually approved, not just under emergency use authorization, then all the people were like, oh, well, now it's approved, so you have no reason not to get it. And people literally said that. and it's still under emergency use authorization because Comirnaty, that label, does not exist. So there was one woman who I believe it was the Comirnaty hearings. She spoke out and said, "No, I don't think the data is good enough to approve it." And they didn't listen to her, of course, but she was one that was like, "Nah." She was pretty cool. Dr. Jessica Rose. Now I have to find this Substack. She's a good Substack, actually. Igor Chudov and Dr. Jessica Rose have good Substacks. She knows her stuff. She knows her. Oh my God, which one is her? Let's see. How can there be so many? No, this is not it. How did I lose this tab? I'm so mad about this. Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second. I'm going to find it. Oh, give me a break. Give me a break. How are we doing in the chat? Brave is much better. That's true. I keep forgetting to go to Brave. It's a bad habit because I was doing the DuckDuckGo thing for so long. But I try to go to Brave more now, for sure. Give me a break. Give me a break. I'm gonna find you. There might be this culprit though. We have to explore this. I cannot believe this disappeared though. Makes me think I'm onto something. I'm gonna find it. Bear with me, y'all. Thank you for your patience. I always do these streams way too last minute anyways. That's typically what I do. All right. I done found her. Too many Jessica Roses out there. I didn't know they existed. Let's jump back in. Lucky I'm using Opera. Okay, cool. Jessica Rose is the bomb, and she serves too. Yeah, she's pretty cool. Okay, I just use my version now. It lets you go to more search pages. Ricky, we need to plan the next time you are coming on my show. Yeah, we do. We need to talk about that. We missed it this week. Next week, I'm crazy busy. Possibly maybe like a Monday, but like next week is no Monday because we go late. I don't know. We'll talk about it. Maybe not next week, but the next week after that. I don't know yet. Crazy busy week next week, which is horrible. I don't want to be this busy, but I have to work so much. Gotta work and pay bills and whatnot. Okay, so here's Unacceptable Jessica. Definitely recommend this Substack because she's an actual doctor and she actually knows math too. She like knows math. She like gets it. She knows how to read charts. She knows a lot. She really does. She has a very interesting perspective too. There's a couple articles actually that are related to what I'm about to talk about. I think. Ooh. Yeah. This is a good one. So this came out on June 10th. She's like, are we looking at weaponized amyloidosis? Now, she might be onto something. First, I need to tell you guys that the number of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, prion disease reports in bears since the deployment of COVID-19 injections has far surpassed the background rate for the U.S. for the year. That's already happened this year. So that's one thing. And Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is like a neurodegenerative disease. I think it's like spongiform encephalopathy. It's a prion disease that like usually kills people within a year. We've seen a spike in prion diseases. Bruce Willis retired because of prion disease, so it's bad. So on proteins, most people think of a steak when they hear the word protein. I used to, but proteins are more than steak. They are large biomolecules, energetically stable, compact, folded strings of amino acids whose folded structure determines their function. They do all sorts of things for us, like metabolic reaction, catalysis. That's a hard word to say. DNA replication, providing cellular structure, molecular transport, and so much more. You can purify them too. That's what I did. That's what I did a lot of during my last postdoc. Proteins are absolutely essential to life in living organisms. Short strings of amino acids are generally not termed proteins, but peptides. So here's like a little breakdown of the structure of proteins. It's getting hot in here because I turned my AC off to stream because it makes too much noise. On prions, among the many proteins, there are at least 20,000 that we humans have. We have prion proteins. Prion proteins, or cellular prion proteins, are native to humans. They are in our brains and expressed all the time. When these particular proteins misfold, then Houston, we have a problem. These misfolded proteins are called prions and are associated with neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease or Creutzfeldt-Jakob. It seems that they can transform or teach other prion proteins to misfold as well. So it's almost like they're contagious. They're not contagious, so to speak, but they can impact other proteins, which is very interesting. It's not really teaching as much as proximal disallowance of proper folding. This enables an autocatalytic reaction whereby the PRPSC catalyzes the misfolding of PRPC to produce more PRPSC due to the fact that prions are resistant to proteolysis, the process of removal or misfolded proteins. The process of removal of misfolded proteins, excuse me. So this is very science heavy when you really dig down into it. But the paper that scares me. Oh, this is interesting. I spent all day reading the papers linked to this article written by Walnut or Walter Chestnut. He goes by Walnut. And they are fascinating. One in particular caught my eye. In summary, the idea here is that a conserved coronavirus spike protein peptide forms amyloid nanostructures and hydrogels under pH-dependent conditions, and that this has applications in material science for slow-release drug delivery. Now that's interesting. See, hydrogel is like we're going back to the carbon nanoparticle thing. Hydrogel is one of those fucking like DARPA projects where they spent tons of money to understand how these nanoparticles can carry diseases and be released into your system. So this is actually all in that nanoparticle world, and amyloids are these structures, these sort of we'll get into the amyloids actually more soon, but it's just so weird. Should we do more here? There's so much to read here. I would go to her Substack and really dig into this because this is very science heavy. It gets really crazy. But the amyloids are explained better, I think, in another piece she wrote more recently. Is this the one I was looking at? The modified spike protein is dangerous for specific reasons. Yeah, here we go. Here's the amyloids. The take-home message on this article still holds. The structures inducing arterial embolisms in post-infected individuals are not blood clots. So what people are dying from clots or going to the hospital with these clots, they're not actually blood clots. Blood clots are when like red blood cells like all kind of smush together and they like clot your vessels. Like literally it's a blockage. But the clots that people are having are not actual blood clots. So when people say they're blood clots, it's actually wrong. There's something else clotting inside your body. But like, what is it? It's the question. It's like really weird. Here's a screenshot of pathologist Ryan Cole holding up a sample, courtesy of Richard Hirschman, of strange proteinaceous structures extracted from embalming/autopsies. I'm waiting on some firsthand pathology results from Ryan now, so stay tuned. This article will be much stronger with them, and I do love pretty pictures, so these fibers are being pulled out of veins, and like there's a few places that have sort of explored this, but like this is what's coming out of veins and arteries and capillaries and stuff like that, and these structures. So they seem to be some kind of protein like fiber. I don't know. Like people don't like doctors don't even know what to name this. Kind of looks like a tapeworm, no? Yeah. Like what is this? They're pulling this out of dead people's bodies. A blood vessel can change its inner diameter via vasoconstriction, but it would be safe to say that for any selected blood vessel, the diameter would be somewhere between 8 and 25 millimeters, depending on what type you pick and if it's vasoconstricted. So again, here, this looks more like a blood clot when you have the blood doing this job. Looks like red currant jelly, she said. This is a case of cardiac amyloidosis. So this is the amyloids. So these fibers can cause a lot of the things that we're seeing. Apparently, it can cause a heart attack. It can cause the clotting, quote unquote. It can cause, the misfolded proteins in your brain could cause a stroke. Seems like a lot of the different things people are having can be caused by the same fibrous clumps of shit in your body. Maybe not. I think we'll learn more as time goes on, but they're really digging into this misfolded protein thing is being connected to the amyloidosis. This is very weird. Very, very weird. And then she also has a piece that came out very recently. I don't think it's myocarditis. I think it's injection-induced cardiac amyloidosis. Now, I will say, like, myocarditis is definitely happening probably really early on when you first get the shot, and you have these nanoparticles that are causing inflammation because people's arms are on fire when they're getting these shots. So that's inflammation, right? Definitely, if that goes straight to the heart, if it goes into a blood vein and goes directly to your heart, and you have if you have heart pain in the first few days, that would probably be myocarditis because it's inflammation. But she might have a point here. Like a lot of these heart attacks months after the vaccine, they might have a blockage or, due to this amyloidosis. So there might be a common factor in a lot of these more mid to long-term problems people are having. Now, will this continue to happen? Will this slow down over time, or will this just be consistent from now on? Do some people's bodies not do this, produce these fibrous things, or does everyone's body do to some extent if they have taken this vaccine? I don't know, but it is very unique to vaccinated people. This is not happening in unvaccinated people. So the mRNA instructions, I guess, are telling your body to make this stuff. I just think it's your body not working right. I don't know what else this could be. It doesn't make any sense. What are your thoughts? I don't know. Seems like a big mistake, guys. Seems like this was a bad idea. And it seems like they knew this was going to happen. And I hope they didn't know this was going to happen, but I really think they did. Because they're assholes. What else we got? Unplaying Jessica. I gotta quit using Microsoft Edge. I haven't read anything in like a year. Went from 2 books a month to not even an article. Well, these articles are not great these days anyways. Okay. Yeah, that's not what a blood clot looks like. I'm a bit busy tonight. Just wanted to say I love you. Oh, thanks, Elle. I had a massive DVT years ago that hospitalized me for a month and a half. There was no way in hell I was going to get vaxxed. Yeah. I know. Sometimes we do what we got to do. Big mistake for sure. I think they knew. Yeah, it's pretty bad, yo. And so that's it for tonight for the most part. I just have a little video. I'm sure most of you have seen this by now. It got really popular the last couple weeks, but something that we kind of like most people missed, and it didn't become like a thing until 2022. But this video, these are clips from a television show from 2016 that wasn't popular. I really thought this would have made the rounds earlier, coming from 2016, but I think a lot of people forgot about this and they dug it back up and clipped it. And I don't know. There's something very, very interesting. The X-Files season 10, when they kind of rebooted the series, brought back Mulder and Scully, they had a particular episode which was like the creator and one of the writers, he said he learned the most from this particular episode, and it was like, he was so excited about the science, the real science in this episode. So this is like the favorite of the guy who definitely has connections with, the government. I think I have to look him up, but the guy who created X-Files definitely has probably like a military, maybe an intelligence background for sure. I have to do some more digging, but he knows some stuff. He's got some insider knowledge. And this is just weird. We have to watch.
Been making claims.
Claims about what?
You and everyone you know has a piece of DNA in your genome, put there without your knowing it.
Put there by whom?
Well, that's the question of the day.
This is an internet lunatic. You're not saying you believe him.
Just hold on, Agent Einstein. You're talking to a scientist.
Forgive me, Assistant Director. It may sound insensitive, but the suggestion is pure science fiction.
What I'm saying, Agent Einstein, is that the facts, as I understand them, cannot be discounted out of hand.
No one has the right or the ability to tamper with your DNA.
Unless we gave them that ability.
You say they're tampering with our DNA, that they're able to shut down our immune systems by the addition of something to our DNA.
Yes, but I don't know how exactly.
Or how it's being triggered.
I don't know that either.
Or why it's happening now. What can we possibly do?
We need to...
Did you hear that? They add something to your DNA. Well, we know that. We know that the injections definitely change your DNA in your liver lining. That's part of a study that's already happened. How it's triggered, though, or why it's happening now. It's like it's multifactorial, guys. It's like they planted the seed in X-Files in 2016. And whatever's happening now doesn't mean it's exactly what's happening in this story. But it's like they kind of gave you the hint that multiple things are going to be at play at once. Kind of interesting.
What can we possibly do?
We need to act quickly.
You were right about that.
Well, I was wrong about the science. I was wrong about what's causing it. Dead wrong, in fact.
But it's clearly a widespread failure of our immune systems.
Through gene tampering. A virus within a virus that was put there through the smallpox vaccine. It's what these men are calling the Spartan virus.
We have to figure this out. What's wrong with the science?
Okay. The Spartan virus removes the adenosine deaminase gene from your DNA. Remove the ADA gene and your immune system will simply vanish.
Yeah, but I'm not getting sick.
It's only a matter of time.
Okay. So how does it work? How does the virus remove the ADA gene?
A process called CRISPR-Cas.
CRISPR-Cas9. RNA and a protein cutting genes at exact locations.
Exactly. But in this instance, used as a weapon.
Yo, they literally whipped out the CRISPR-Cas9 technology. They're literally talking about this fucking technology that they put in vaccines now. Are you kidding me? Like, did they kind of tell us a little bit back here in X-Files? Did they hint? Is this predictive programming? That's so crazy. It's like the Trojan horse in the vaccine, and then you get the thing and your immune system's shot, and it's like a lot of this kind of stuff's happening. Yeah. I think there's a lot of parallels. I don't think it's the exact thing that's happening, but I think there are lots of parallels. It's like predictive programming, and then if you go back and reference X-Files, you're crazy because you're referencing a fictional television show. But it seems like a lot of these things are at play. Just saying.
The ultimate weapon. the ability to depopulate the planet, to kill everyone but the chosen.
By tampering with their DNA.
Through gene editing.
Why do such a thing and lie about it? Our own government.
Your own government lies as a matter of course, as a matter of policy. The Tuskegee experiments on black men in the 30s, Henrietta Lacks.
What are they trying to do?
That's the missing piece.
But it's not hard to imagine a government hiding, hoarding technology for 70 years at the expense of human life and the future of the planet. Driven not only by corporate greed, but a darker objective.
The takeover of America.
And then the world itself, by any means necessary, however violent, or cruel, or efficient. By severe drought, brought on by weather wars, conducted secretly using aerial contaminants and high-altitude electromagnetic waves. In a state of perpetual war. To create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home. With tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose, the corporate takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism.
And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins.
The takeover of America.
By a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate.
Happening as we sit here.
It's happening all around us.
The other shoe waiting to drop.
It'll probably start on a Friday. The banks will announce a security action necessitating their computers to go offline all weekend.
Digital money will disappear.
They can just steal your money?
Followed by the detonation of strategic electromagnetic pulse bombs to knock out major grids.
What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia.
An invasion of the U.S.
The Russians tried it in '47.
What the hell did we just watch? Like, most of that is actually happening. I'm not even lying. Most of that is actually happening. Ramping up the police state, having these wars going on, and you're not even sure who the bad guy is anymore. What is happening? Russia, Russia, Russia. Yeah, Russia's going to try it, huh? Is it Russia? I don't know. Oh my God. I think the United States is at war with its own people. Seems like they're trying to topple Europe and America and Canada and Australia and New Zealand, right? Seems like they're really trying to topple those countries. Israel, vaccinate the shit out of them all, wipe out some people. I don't know, man. It's so on point, wasn't it? Jesus, that's so weird. Joel McHale in the WEF versus Alana Freeland. Who would win? They summarized it very well. Yeah. I mean, the science might not be spot on for what's happening with COVID, but I think there's some parallels there. And I think they're going to create these like rolling blackouts, these attacks on power grids, these cyber attacks. Add that to the climate lockdowns, possibly controlling the food. We've seen them slaughter a bunch of animals. Oh, they have the bird flu, kill the chickens. Oh, the cows died from the heat. Yeah, right. We're seeing all that, We're seeing all that. The control of the media. Assange was just extradited, or Assange might be extradited, likely will be extradited at this point. It's over, man. It's like, this is bad. And people are just going about their days like, la-di-da, la-di-da. I don't know, man. I don't know. By 2030, it's over. It's bad. The dollar's out. CBD, central bank digital currencies are in. And they could just, like they said in X-Files, they could just steal your money. What money are they stealing? Well, they control the banks. If everything goes off, most money is digital anyways, regardless of whether it's a cryptocurrency or a dollar. 98% of money is on a computer. 2% is in cash. So you can wipe that shit right out. That's why bank runs are definitely a possibility. People are like, oh, there's gonna be cyber attacks or rolling blackouts or whatever they come up with, whatever op they come up with, and people are gonna run for the banks and try to get their money out. Yeah. If there are no computers, if there's no power, banks aren't open, it's gonna get crazy. And then we'll all emerge. The survivors will emerge in a new world. Won't they? Or they have to get plugged in. However, it's like if you survive the COVID thing, which is probably going to kill a lot more people somehow. I don't know what they're planning. Then they're gonna force you into like these smart cities where they're blanketed in 5G. I don't know. Is that supposed to track and trace you, and you have to be a good little citizen and eat your bugs and live on your little UBI and your little shoebox of apartment? I don't know what they're planning, but there is something crazy going on. There is something nutty going on right now. Literally insane. And when I watch that X-Files thing, it is just like, what? Like, you can't think of all that ahead of time without knowing something. Like, no. That can't all be coincidence. They cannot all be coincidence, because those are all the topics. Assange and Snowden. This was 6-7 years ago. Assange wasn't even in prison when they made that. Are you kidding me? What? Like Assange and Snowden and food and climate and zapping you from satellites and like they got it. The weather manipulation was one of them too, which is totally how they're going to orchestrate all the climate stuff and do the climate lockdowns. They've been manipulating weather for decades. Oh man. So we don't know what's actually climate issue and what's them just playing with something. We're never going to know now. Because no one will investigate and no one will actually admit that they can manipulate the weather. And now we're like, oh, CO2 is bad. So it's amazing for plants, but apparently CO2 is bad. We don't talk about the plastics or the fracking or the dumping of shit. We just really focus on the CO2. Yeah. Probably failed. Probably going to fail that one, guys. Probably we're really just focused on zero carbon emissions, which is literally impossible because we fucking breathe carbon. It's probably over for us, guys. It's probably not going to work out. That is not the top priority. Carbon emissions. Literally, volcanoes give off more fucking carbon than we do, but okay, cool. I watched original X-Files with my family towards the end. Yo, X-Files is legit. It's because they got insider fucking information, though. They definitely got insider information. There's a few of those episodes where you go back and watch and you're like, what the? They knew this in the 90s? They knew this then? Holy crap. It's nuts. Lone Gunman. What's up, Lone Gunman pilot episode. Okay, what's the plan? 9/11. Yeah, what is the plan? I don't know. That's the thing. Like, they got this pretty figured out. They've been working on this for decades. And we're just like, oh, yeah, it's just all coincidence. All this shit's happening at once. No, guys. I was totally obsessed with X-Files when it was on the air. I even made sure I saw the movie in theater, so I knew what was happening the next season. Oh, Mulder and Scully. Yeah. It really is a good show. Fires and explosions at food processing plants. Yeah, dozens of food processing plants. Dozens and dozens and dozens of them over the past year. It's, a couple is definitely like not out of the ordinary. Like, okay, fires happen. Industrial fires do happen. But like Tons of fires are happening. Tons of crazy accidents. Even planes are crashing into food processing plants. It's getting wild. And then all these animals are getting slaughtered or are dying of heat, as if cattle aren't in the heat all the time anyways. Oh, it got to 103 degrees in Kansas and they died. If cattle are dying, then people are dying of heat. Like, did a bunch of people in Kansas die from the heat? Didn't hear about that. I don't know, guys. I don't think 10,000, 20,000 cattle die from the heat, and humans are like, well, I don't think so, because there's always people that work outside, or there are people who are unhoused. You know, if cattle are dying and humans aren't, something else is going on. Period. Something else is going on. Bush getting rehabbed. Oh God, good God. I watched original X-Files with my family towards the end. I also love Fringe, and a lot of Fringe science on that show is now reality. Oh, Joshua Jackson. Joshua Jackson? Is that show? Never watched Fringe, but I should probably go back and watch a little bit. Everything is planned, and there's so much evidence of it. Yeah, it's definitely planned. I mean, when you see one thing, you're like, oh, that's a coincidence. That's weird. And you see another one, you're like, oh, wow, there's a couple coincidences. And when you start seeing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, when the coincidences are just like beyond imaginable, it's like, okay, this is clearly planned. And we can't even pretend it's not anymore. It's just stupid to pretend it's not a planned series of events at this point. The WEF and Canadian banking industry and told Justin Castro to chill out. He was too far ahead in the script and panicking the plebes. Yeah, he's an interesting one. He's definitely acting hard. You can just watch him act. He's an overactor. Justin Trudeau. He's messing it up a little bit. Trump. They knew Trump was going to go off script, so they took the keys away from Trump and put it in Fauci. That was a deliberate move. They knew, they kind of kept Trump in the dark. That's why Trump was more of a bumbling fool than usual. He was like, China. He didn't know what was going on. He looked very confused at the end there. They left Trump. I don't think Trump would have done anything to try to save us. I don't think Trump was ever going to save us, but he also didn't know what the hell was going on because they didn't trust him to stick to the script. I'm pretty sure that Trump is notoriously bad for staying on script. So they said, nah, Fauci's going to do all the TV stuff. So they inserted him. Whoever makes that choice, I really wonder who makes that choice. Who tells Donald Trump, the egomaniac that he is, hey, this little midget guy is going to go in with you for all the press conferences now. This little Keebler elf, he's the guy. That did not sit well with Trump, I guarantee you. Alrighty. Climate control. Disruption of the global finance. Okay, good night, Lucky. Night. Oh, you need to watch Fringe. Fringe was a good show. Worth your while. Okay. And it's not 25 plus seasons. Yeah, it's not Grey's Anatomy. Jesus. Trump said something about an exercise in public. Yeah, Pompeo definitely called it an exercise. That's for sure. And then I think Fauci said something about we had to implement these protocols or whatever or something, and Trump's like, I wish you would have told me or something like that. Like there was these little things. I have to go back and watch the videos. It's been a while, but Pompeo acting like this was an exercise, like a military exercise, and then Trump literally muttering something under his breath, being like, I wish you told me. Like there was a plan going on and he wasn't in the loop about it. So there's little things where you can just tell someone's orchestrating all this shit. It's very weird. All right, Wes. Good night. Good night, Elle. But that's all I really had tonight, anyways. I mean, you can't top X-Files from 2016 when it called 90% of what's happening right now. That's really, really wild. So that's where I will end it. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for joining me tonight. And we will do this again sometime. I hope I don't get a strike for this video, but Probably will. All right, y'all. See you.